Hello, hello. Welcome to Marshmellow Reads. I'm Marcy, and today I have 12 books to talk to you about. For this month's wrap up, I'm going to break it down into normal categories. We're going to start off with mysteries. Okay, so this is the only book that I did not finish this month. This is The Sanatorium by Sarah Pearse. I'm frustrated about this one because I bought it. Yes, only for $2, but I used my hard-earned money on this book and I didn't even finish it because it wasn't fun. It just was not. In case you're wondering about the plot, some venture capitalists decided to buy an old sanatorium in the Swiss Alps and convert it into a minimalist hotel for millennials, I guess. Then a group of folks decide to stay at this place for someone's recent engagement, and then the guy's fiance goes missing. There was a bad storm, and they ended up getting stuck in this hotel with no help coming for days, and our main character is a detective, sister of the guy's fiance, or the guy whose fiance left, and oh gosh, it was so boring. I really tried to get into it. I ended up DNFing this at 72%. I couldn't do it to myself. I'm glad I dropped it, and I'm glad I picked up One by One instead by Ruth Ware. I'll talk about that one in a little bit. A much better execution of this sort of story than what the Sanatorium tried. And here's One by Ruth Ware. Such a fun listen. I did look up at the reviews when I was finished, and I realized that this book seems to be really polarizing. And I don't know, I'm wondering if I would have still liked it as much if I had read it in print, but I just felt like the pacing was correct and good in the audiobook form. I usually listen at like 1.5x speed anyway, so maybe that's what helped me out. I'm not sure. But yeah, like I said, I think this book did a better murder mystery in an isolated snowy area than the Sanatorium. I really like the setting in this one. Similar vibes, but this one specifically is an isolated ski chalet in the Alps. I think the French Alps this time. And there's also an avalanche that further isolates the people on this chalet. And the cast of characters was also really good. There are two chalet workers who had pretty good chemistry together, and I was rooting for them the whole time. And then the rest are guests that are all from this tech company who made this like really viral app, and now they're all here to decide whether or not they should go public with a really big buyout or if they should stay private and keep their IP. And all of the guests were basically on a very unlikable to meh scale, and that kind of helped make it feel like any one of them could have been the culprit. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this, and it made me almost want to go downhill skiing. So I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. The next mystery on my list is Winter Counts by David Heska, Wanbli, Weiden. Another fantastic mystery. I listened to this one again, and I gobbled it up in like a single day, I think. I really appreciated that we immediately jumped into the action on this one. And the climax to this all, I was so tense, guys, and I was at work, so I was doing my best to like keep a straight face, but man, I was so worried. I like legit didn't know how things were gonna go down, and it's rare for that to happen in a mystery for me, so that was exciting. I will say definitely check out the trigger warnings for this one if you are sensitive to any particular topic, because there's a lot of stuff in here, so yeah. We follow a guy who's basically a vigilante who takes care of problems on a Native American reservation when no one else will. It touches on some social issues, including how even though there are cops around this community, they are not a part of it and thus cannot be trusted. So they're basically useless. And thus, vigilantes, the fixers, that one guy. And at the start of the story, he eventually gets roped into tracking down who's behind the recent influx of heroin into the community after his nephew, unfortunately, gets involved. And it's intense. It goes a couple different places. I didn't really fully expect where it was going, so that part was fun, trying to guess where it was going to go next. The cast of characters was really good. The guy meets up with like an old fling of his who's trying to decide whether she wants to go to med school or do something else with her life. And I don't know, it was just a good, I don't want to say slice of life because that implies some wholesome stuff that this book does not have, but it did feel like a realistic window into these lives. It also talks about the importance of drug rehabilitation rather than punishment, the forever intertwining of corruption and money, living your dreams and not the dreams that your parents want, local eating, and I don't know, there's a lot of stuff in here. I really, really liked it, and I give it a 5 out of 5 stars. Next up is one of my favorite covers. Like, there's just something so beautiful in its simplicity. This is Devil House by John Darnielle. The basic story is of a true crime writer who moves into the so-called Devil House, where a brutal double homicide happened a while back, so he can reconstruct the crime and write about it. But then the deeper story, you realize, is, it's basically questioning the ethics of the true crime genre. For example, like when people are adapting a real life story like this, they end up making changes to certain details, whether they mean to or not. Then these details end up changing real people into whatever best suits their story, and the impacts of those sorts of things. Like, it's kind of fucked that we make entertainment out of really tragic stories. And like, I'm saying this as an avid fan of true crime. Like, my favorite murder gets me through the week. And I think it's you can still like a thing while criticizing it and wanting it to be better. So I don't know. I'm conflicted, but I'm trying my best here. And I loved how the climax of this story wasn't us finally figuring out what happened that fateful night in the Devil House, but instead it's the true crime author reading this letter that he got from a mother of a victim that he once wrote about in a best-selling book of his. And it was heartbreaking. Just reading, like, it was a thick letter, multiple pages. And it was a lot. It was good. I really liked it. And the ending, it makes a lot of sense in context of the entire thing that it was talking about, but I was not expecting it, and it was really good. I really liked it. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. Check it out if that sounds good to you. Yes. Unironically yossing this book. Okay, this is part of my sci-fi category of this month, Machinehood by SB Divya. If you have not seen my video all about it, maybe go check that out. I'll do a quick summary here, but if you want me to go into more details on why I love this book so much, check out that video. This is a sci-fi thriller about artificial intelligence, sentience, and labor rights in a near future dominated by the gig economy. And we follow our main character, Welga, who is now a part of this gig economy after being burned by her government. She is an ex-secret agent and is now working as a bodyguard for hire, and her work is live streamed for entertainment, even though it is pretty violent. But then her world is turned upside down with the emergence of a new group of protesters that are demanding that humanity stop the exploitations of AIs and humans. I really liked this book. It asked a lot of good questions, like what defines sentience? And is there a limit to how far capitalism can push humans past their natural limitations just for the sake of infinite growth? This was such a fun read. There were a lot of action scenes, but also a lot of really thoughtful and thought-provoking scenes. And I had such a good time with this. I'm going to leave it here for now. Like I said, if you want to check out that video, go ahead. If you don't, then I still recommend checking out this book either way. I gave this a glowing 5 out of 5 stars. Next up is Infomocracy by Malka and Older. This is a sci-fi spy thriller based around a global election. So in this world, 20 years ago, most of humanity switched to the Sentinel system, where nations, instead of having, national borders, are instead broken down into sentinels, regions where 100,000 people live. And each sentinel gets to vote for the specific government that they want to have. And then every 10 years, there is a global election to see which government has the most sentinels, and they become the supermajority of the entire world. It was a neat idea, especially in dense cities where the governments and their laws can differ between block to block. For example, here you have street food. You can buy a cup of esquite and walk to the next block and have to throw it out or eat it because they don't allow street food. I really enjoyed that kind of chaos. But now, leading up to the third global election, some people working within different governments and this information, basically the internet that is only full of true things, some of the people that are working within these organizations discover some clues hinting towards election fraud and espionage. And then we get to see them running all over the world, trying to figure out what's going on, how they can stop it. The election is only a few days away, and they have no idea who they can trust. Can they even trust each other? I don't know. I mean, I do. I read it, but I don't want to spoil it for you. And there's a big emphasis on the power of information. Like I said, there's an entire organization called Information. And yeah, they have the truth, but what if people are not interested in the truth? They don't care about what's real and what's not. They only want to hear what they want to hear. And what happens when the people working for these organizations decide that they don't really care about the truth? They are totally fine changing what is real for personal gain. You know, what happens then? I really like that aspect. Honestly, I think the characters were fine. Not bad. They were just fine. I wasn't super interested in the election storyline as much as I really wanted to be. The espionage and sabotage part I liked, but the election story, I don't know, it didn't capture me. But if you are an election nerd, and especially if you've ever worked on a campaign, I think this one might be for you. So consider checking it out. I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. And then the last sci-fi I read in this month was All Systems Red by Martha Wells. This is the first novella in the Murderbot Diaries series. I can't believe I haven't read this earlier. This was so much fun. An absolute great, popcorn read. So fast. The pacing was set to just go, go, go. And I liked that a lot. I read it in a single day. Our main character, Murderbot, is tasked with taking care of a group of exploratory scientists on some distant planet. Murderbot is a security droid that has hacked its operating system and has allowed itself to become self-aware. And what does it do with this newfound freedom? Marathon TV shows and all sorts of media. It's so relatable. All he wants to do is chill. But then one day, there's this other colony or group of scientists in another pod, and they go dark. And now it's up to it to figure out what's going on and keep its scientists safe. And it was fun. This really read like a movie. It was fun, it was cute, it was actiony. I would absolutely continue the series. I gave this one a solid 4 out of 5 stars. Next up, I've got 4 romances for you. First is Under One Roof, an Allie Hazelwood novella. I believe it's the Steminist series, something like that. I tried so hard to get into this one, but I just couldn't. I did listen to it on audiobook, and I don't think that really helped or hurt, but it was nice to be able to speed through it, honestly. I don't know if I would have finished it without it. Mara is an environmental engineer fresh out of grad school who has been gifted half of an amazing house in Washington, D.C. by her late PhD advisor and mother figure. Sounds great, right? Except the advisor's nephew, Liam, a corporate big oil lawyer, owns the other half. Oh no, how are they going to make this work? I mean, they do. It's a romance, so yeah. Oh my god. I hated Mara. She sucked so bad. I was rooting for Liam to find someone else. It took Mara months to realize that she was a bad roommate. She left out broccoli stir fry, not in a Tupperware container. She just left it out to stink away without considering that another human being has to inhabit this space. Girl, what are you doing? I know you had roommates before. And she also played the Frozen soundtrack on repeat, super loud. And one day, because she was opposed to Liam's morality and his corporate job, decides to not sign for important papers at the door, which causes both Liam and his entire team to work past midnight, making up for this loss of documents. And then she has the gall to complain to him and demand that he stop cooking because it's 2 a.m. But he's cooking dinner because he was at work till past midnight. Like, Liam may be a lawyer, but I still liked him way more than Mara. There was a decent sex scene, but it was not worth everything else. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. I'm not sure it deserves that high. Here's another disappointing. I don't know if it was romance or like contemporary lit, whatever. This is 5 Years by Rebecca Serle. More corporate lawyers. But this one is unlikable. Much more than Liam, I would say. Danny, an uptight Manhattan lawyer, is asked where she sees herself in 5 years during like the most important interview of her career at this fancy schmancy New York law firm. And she gives her a meticulously crafted answer, and she's like married to her current boyfriend and has this awesome job and a really nice apartment in a specific part of New York that I don't really understand. And like, okay, fine. And she ends up getting the job, maybe not that day, but then later she does go on a fancy dinner date with her boyfriend, and he proposes in a really fancy bar that's only for like fancy important people. Like, good, cool, good for you. Nice, I guess. And then they go back, she falls asleep and wakes up 5 years in the future and realizes that she's engaged to some other guy and lives in a different part of New York. And that's apparently important. And then she has sex with this guy? Like, she could have said no, but she didn't. He was hot. And then she wakes up back in her old life with her old fiance, and she doesn't tell anyone about this. I think she talks to a psychologist or psychiatrist about the vision, but she doesn't mention the sex. But she continues to dwell on this vision so much that she keeps pushing back her wedding date with her OG fiance, and it's a mess. Danny was so unlikable. Like, was I supposed to relate to her? See myself in her? I hope not. How the fuck do you go 4.5 years without setting a wedding date? Like, and how did her fiance not just sit her down and have a heart-to-heart about this? Like, clearly there's something wrong. But then, when she realizes this 5 year in the future date is coming up, she decides that she wants to get married next month and like tries to rush things. But obviously that doesn't happen because that's not how weddings work. I'm gonna get into some ranty spoilers. I don't think you should read this, so I would say continue watching, but if you care, skip to this time point. I 100% called that Bella was gonna die as soon as the mention of cancer happened. It was just so predictable. And then the rest of her arc, just, it was so melodramatic. I understand that cancer sucks ass. It's a horrible experience, both for the person going through it and all their friends and family. But why did it have to be like this? And instead of sobbing where the book wanted me to sob, I ended up cackling my way through the finale. Like, the vision turned out to be her wearing her dead best friend's engagement ring, who happened to be engaged to the guy that she slept with in her vision. And all this is happening the night of her best friend's wake. And she ends up sleeping with the fiance at the same night. Like, it was so messed up. It was so bad. I gave this a 2 out of 5 stars. Don't read it. But maybe do if you really want to, I guess. It's short enough. Next is a romance novel I actually enjoyed. This is The Ex Hex by Erin Sterling. So like a decade ago, Vivian accidentally cursed her ex-boyfriend for the summer, Reese, and he is an amazingly hot wizard, and they haven't really spoken in like 9 years. And now he's back in town because he has to recharge the town's ley lines, the like magic that powers the town. But before they realize what's going on, because he's cursed, he ends up completely screwing up the magic, and now they have to save the town before things get really, really bad. I really liked the description of Vivi and her family. Like, they seem just like the kind of witches I wished I could be. And maybe still wish I could be, you know, if magic were real. They live in an adorable town that goes all out for Halloween, and like the aunt's house has magical powers that can change the interior of the house depending on the time of day and the mood you want to set. Oh, so good. I loved that Vivi and Reese had a history together. Their summer that they were together for sounded like it was full of fun, spicy times, and genuine love. And their spicy scenes were so good. It wasn't just one. Like, it did have one main climax. But there were also plenty of other short ones that were peppered in that really, really, I don't know. I think they were really good. I'm interested in reading the sequel with Vivian's cousin. I really wanted it to be with a woman because she specifically states in the novel that she had multiple female partners, but apparently it's gonna be with a dude. So disappointed, but still interested. Anyway, I gave this one, the first one, a 4 out of 5 stars. Next I have Princess Ever After by Kay O'Neill. This is a middle grade graphic novel. It's super short. It's like 53 pages, so I'm not going to say much. Basically, there is a princess who saves another princess from her tower prison, and they become fast friends, and it's super cute, and there's a romance between them, and they make a friend and save them again. Like, it's cute. There's a cute dragon. It's very short. I think you should check it out. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. The last book I'm going to talk about for March is a nonfiction memoir. This is Brain on Fire, My Month of Madness by Susannah Cahalan. Susannah was 24, and she was just starting her first serious relationship and growing into her promising career as a journalist at a major New York newspaper. But out of the blue, she started having some paranoid episodes, which developed into more worrying psychotic episodes. And eventually she lands in a hospital room in a ward for epilepsy. And her mind was spiraling into madness with seemingly no way out. And even with the support of her family and her very supportive new boyfriend, it seemed like her fate was sealed and she was going to spend the rest of her life in a care facility. But with a whole lot of luck, she managed to get a life-saving diagnosis that brought her back. Susannah Cahalan's skills as a journalist really shine in this intense memoir. She does not remember a lot from this time of her life, so she's had to reconstruct this story from her own journals that are many times kind of to mostly unintelligible, and also interviewing the people that knew her during this time period. She went through so much, and it goes beyond just a single month in the hospital. And even when she felt normal, she still couldn't be 100% independent because there's always a chance that this could come back. And that's the reality that she has to live with the rest of her life, and that's terrifying, but like, I'm so happy that she was able to find it, and like, it's a crazy story. It read like fiction. It was so out there, but this was her life. This is her life. And I gave this memoir a 5 out of 5 stars. Oh boy, that was a lot of books. I need some water. But first, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Do something nice for yourselves. Do something nice for others. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye! I want to get real close, just so you can see my earrings. Yes, they are knives, and I love them.